guys, today I'm doing an experiment to really find out whether brushes do indeed break the hair. Is it the brush? Is it the technique? Is it the hair? What is it? Is it tension? Is it too much force? If you don't know, I am not a wide tooth comb lover. Over the years, I've found that wide tooth combs for me don't really detangle as effectively. Yes, they're wider, but they don't really necessarily detangle as well. They hurt, and I end up passing the comb way more than I need to. However, brushes seem to go better in between the hairs, and they give a thorough detangle, and they're less painful. So I really don't know what the reason is there. So I'm not a wide tooth comb lover per se. I'm just playing with this brush. It's my daughter's brush. I got her a mini tangle teaser because the big tangle teaser is pretty much half her head, so it's a bit cumbersome. Try and get those curls detangled well. So in this experiment, I'm just gonna be trying out this, not the comb. I guess I am in a way the tangle teaser, but really I just want to see how much breakage I'm gonna get, shed hairs, etc. using this one. And what I'm really trying to see is if the breakage is caused by the combs, the tension. Is it the ends that are just already ready to break regardless of what you're using? Is it more slip? Is it more wet hair or dry hair? And in that way, really trying to decide how to use brushes more effectively on my hair as I streamline my routine now that I don't have as much time to finger detangle, search and destroy, all that stuff. So this is what I'll be using. So we're starting off with 2-week-old twists. So these twists have been kept in this bun for 2 weeks. The hair is stretched, as you can see. It's been in these twists. The braids, the roots of the hair are braided. The hair is well and truly moisturized, right? Glycerin, leave-in conditioner, castor oil, very, very well hydrated and moisturized, soft to the touch, all that. And what we're starting here with is just oil detangling. So I'm going to be adding oil, finger detangling first because I can, it's really soft, right? And then adding oil and then going in with the tangle teaser to try and detangle. As you guys know, this is a method I've been using for the longest time, just dry detangling, particularly with my fingers, but obviously I'm trying it out with a brush here. The brush is clean, there's no hairs in there before I start, just in case you want to be sure. And like I said, I'm adding oil to this particular section. I've divided the sections into 3 since I started with a braid, so I just took, one of those sections that made the braid, if that makes sense. My ends needed trim pronto, but obviously I'm starting from the ends and gently going up the hair to detangle. There's a lot of resistance at the ends there because of the single strand knots, the split ends and that kind of thing. And that's point number 1, right? It's well known. If your ends are raggedy, your ends are unhealthy, it's not going to be a great detangling experience. The roots, as you can see, quite nice, quite detangled already, but there we have tension, we have resistance, I should say. And I'm going in with my fingers to finger detangle, create more room, remove shed hairs before going in again with a brush. You can do that with a brush as well, but it won't be just brushing through, right? You kind of have to separate with the brush as I'm showing you here, and not really forcing that brush through. But yeah, this is all I'll be doing for a bit, just to see, how long it takes me and how much hairs I get at the end of the detangle, whether shed hairs or breakage. Another thing I just want to make clear here is that if you're going to use an oil, use a lighter oil, right? Olive oil, I would recommend. Avocado oil maybe as well. Castor oil is so thick that it doesn't really provide slip when detangling. And if you ever put it on your skin or your body, you know exactly what I mean. It does not spread very easily. So it's not good for detangling with a comb. With fingers, it works. And that's because of the softness, right? But yeah, just use a lighter oil if you're going to try this for yourself. I made sure to not edit the speed of this video. That way you can see the rate, the pace, the gentleness, just how tedious, I guess, and slow this method is, okay, if you're ever gonna do it. The understanding of how much time and care textured hair would need to be thoroughly detangled is this right here. And that's why, you know, a lot of the times naturals will say that, you know, it's okay to just have some tangles in your head, right, in your hair, because it's never fully thoroughly detangled ever. And even if it is, like, there'll be tangles by the minute. And I'll demonstrate this right in the video as we move along. You'll see I'll fully detangle the hair, but then try going straight like a minute after, seconds after, and there's tangles again. So yeah, I'm just showing you in real time how slow this process is. If length retention is a goal of yours, you could go quicker, but you're not going to be seeing length. And even if I'm this slow, like, it's still not the best for detangling. Like, this level of detangling will probably get you to waist length, brush strap length, waist length, but if we're looking at tailbone, hip bone, girl, this will not even work. So it took me 5 minutes just to detangle this one, about 6 minutes actually. So to get these other two, 5 minutes, 15 minutes. So 15 minutes, roughly, maybe 20, just depending on the length of your hair and how tangled the hair is. But right now I can say for sure that it's fully detangled from root to ends. They are still, as you know, textured hair doesn't completely ever, it's never completely tangle free, but this is what I would call well detangled hair. The ends not being clean and freshly trimmed makes it much more difficult to detangle. So that's one thing. Let's have a look at the brush. The truth is, the majority of the hairs are indeed shed hairs, because they're longer and I can see the bulb at the end. However, there is some breakage as well. That's breakage because it's a short piece of hair. But the rest of them are really longer hairs. And what I'm noticing is that the breakage that seems to be there seems to be just at the ends, and it's actually ends that have got lots of single strand knots or that have got split ends already, so they're already weaker. So maybe split ends on two parts of the hair. So if this is a strand of hair, you've got a split end here and another split end here. Therefore, the hair is weak on a few spots, or it's got a mid shaft, not a mid shaft, but a, you know, like a hole in the hair at the ends. So it's weaker. That's what I'm noticing about the breakage. So my thought here is that if I had clean ends, healthy ends that don't have split ends, would I still get the same amount of breakage? So maybe with the finger detangling, the reason we're able to retain as much length is because we are not breaking those really fragile ends. But what if the ends were strong as well with no split ends? Even if they're older, but if they're strong, clean ends, there is no friction there, there's no split ends, single strand knots, would that then see you retaining more length? Do you know what I mean? So this is breakage. That's about 3 strands of breakage. You can, I don't know if you can tell, but one of these has a single strand knot right here. That's a single strand knot right there. Yeah, it's interesting. That's the shedding from one of the sections, 2 weeks. So let's try wet detangling. I'm gonna use this rosemary water. Glycerin is the third ingredient, so great choice as well for people that don't want to make their own glycerin spritzers. I'm going in with a good amount of water, finger detangling there. I detangled my hair thoroughly about 2 weeks ago, so I find that the braids at the roots are helping to really just reduce the tangles. There's nothing like tangles on your roots, guys. It's just a nightmare. I'm trying to remove the hairs in the little brush so it is not carried on shed or broken hairs from the previous detangle. I've taken out as much as I can. I'll just show you here. So there's a couple smaller hairs in there, but I'm still going for it. Another culprit is just nails, guys. Nails that are not filed. Terrible. So whether I start from the ends or from the roots, the key, I guess, is to not yank the hair through the knots. When you meet a challenge or knots or the hair is not, the brush is not going through, then you try and use your fingers and try and create space, all that kind of jazz. And I don't necessarily think this is better, but I'm not sure. And honestly, using the comb vertically like this doesn't really make that much of a difference. That went through fast, much faster, as opposed to the dry hair with just the oil. Wow. Wow, that was an easier detangle. And that's my shed hairs. Let's have a look. Much easier detangle, girl. So much more easier. There is some breakage. Little bits. Nothing too drastic. The other pieces of hair that I'm getting, again, they've got single strand knots that you probably can't see, but lots of split ends. This one has got lots of split ends. Again, it seems to be ends that are unhealthy that actually break off. So we'll have to try out once I get a good trim and see. The truth is, the majority of the hairs are actually shed hairs. You see, longer hairs, shed hairs with a bulb at the end. It's just normal shed hairs. There seems to be less breakage when the hair is dampened. So I think that's a safe conclusion to make. The hair broke much less. Like I got maybe 3 broken hairs as opposed to maybe 7 or so when the hair was dry and just using the oil. And just the struggle of knots and single strand knots is something I just cannot. I'm gonna use a gel for this last one that has got a lot of sleep. And I'm just wetting the hair with the rosemary glycerin, which is another option for you guys if you don't want to make your own glycerin spritzers. And this is the gel that I'm going to use to detangle. This gel does not smell the best, but I found it to have good sleep and also does not dry the hair out. Glycerin, number 2. Honey, number 4. Aloe, number 5. So it's water, glycerin, honey, aloe, juice. First first 4 ingredients. So yeah, I picked it up because obviously I'm gonna be using it on my daughter's hair. It's kid friendly or child friendly, and it's from Mayel. You know, it is what it is. But I picked it up because it's non-drying. It gives definition. It doesn't give a crunch, and I have not found any flakes with it. So it's the best of both worlds, of all worlds, in my opinion. And also I was looking for a product that I can use to detangle outside of the shower and leave it in the hair, because a lot of leave-ins are either too expensive, don't have enough sleep, or yeah, just not enough, you know, product for our hair. Anyway, show you the brush I'm starting off with. Again, this is the brush I'm starting off with. I've removed as much hair as possible from the previous detangles. And this is pretty much your equivalent of detangling in the shower with a leave-in conditioner, with a deep conditioner or a rinse-out conditioner. So here we go. So this is for someone that wants more definition, once they twist their hair, you know, for someone that wants the hair to be compact, because that clumping and the definition keeps the hair in order so that there's less tangles when you go to wash and restyle the hair. Keeps the shed hairs in place. So it's a good compromise. The first method I used is obviously, you know, for someone that oil detangles. The next one is maybe someone that just moisturizes the hair and then detangles and then puts it back in the twists. This one is for someone that wants the twist to have definition. The second method where I just used, in fact, the first and the second method where I just used water or oil are really good if you want the chunkier twists. But this one is good for people that want a more compact look, as in the twists will look more shiny, more organized, but then less volume, less thick. So I guess it depends what you're looking for. I seem to gravitate more towards this method with the gel straight after wash day, and then the rest of the times until the month of washing, I go ahead and just use water or just moisturizing products, but mainly just the glycerin, that glycerin spritz, or that one as well. That did not take too much time at all. And these are my shed hairs, so this is the hair in the brush. So much less, but then the part is also a little bit smaller than the other two parts that I tried out. Don't know if you can tell, but so smaller hairs, or shorter hairs I should say, and the rest are just longer hairs. That's more breakage, I think. Yeah, that's more breakage. That's more breakage. But then the rest is more shed hairs. Longer ones, see. The only thing I hate about this bottle, it's not really user-friendly. Like, I can't really hold it very well. You see, it's just a bit cumbersome. But I do like the product. So the conclusion of the matter here, I think, is that the wet detangling produces less breakage, and you know, cleaning up your ends is actually, I think, I'll have to try it out once I get a good trim, and I'm getting a good trim very soon. Look at that. I know there'll always be tangles in natural hair, but if you can't finger detangle, I feel like it's possible to detangle with combs with minimal breakage, and the wet detangling seems to work a bit better. Obviously, I got more shed hairs. Quite honestly, this experiment has really exposed quite a few things for me. And first thing I want to say is that the combs themselves might not be the only culprit when it comes to causing damage and breakage. So if you're using a quality comb already, you've got one thing right there with regards to using a tool that will less likely cause the breakage. Yes, the combs seem to make or create or cause more breakage than finger detangling, and maybe even a wide tooth comb, I'm not sure. But there's other factors, right, that contribute to, the breakage that occurs with a use of a brush, for example. So we have seen that dry hair seems to have, more breakage, and it's a little bit trickier, takes more time. Even if the part that was detangled dry was a bit larger, I think that the dry detangling requires a little bit more care. So I guess detangling the hair dry, even if it's got a lot of product, a lot of oils, it's moisturized, it's soft, it's stretched, if you're using a brush, that seems to cause a little bit more breakage. It's not drastically more, but it's definitely more than the other two methods. Using like water or dampening the hair seems to have less shed hairs and less breakage, and even more the method that uses a lot of slip and like a detangling product. So it seems that the detangling products have less breakage that they're showing, even if the part was smaller, right? However, another thing that I've seen obviously is that you can detangle with all these methods: dry, damp, or lots of sleep. It's just a matter of how you do it. If you're going to do dry detangling, it'll have to be really slow, really gentle, really smaller parts, and just take your time, right? And of course, if you're using wet detangling, same thing. I think, as much as possible, you want to put your hair in the best position to incur less breakage. So even if the slip causes less breakage, I would still be careful. Another thing I observe is that technique does matter, right? It is known you want to start detangling from the ends and move your way upward to create room for your tangles at the roots, at the ends of the hair, right? So you're bringing the tangles from the roots to the ends. However, something that's less discussed is the fact that whether you start detangling from the roots or the ends, the most important thing here is that you do not force, yank, or try to just like put the brush through the hair in a quick high tension manner. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So as I've demonstrated in the video, even if I started detangling from mid of the hair shaft, for example, once I found resistance, I stopped and just started to tease the tangles with my fingers or the brush itself. But you do not force that brush through the tangles. In my opinion, this is the most important thing, regardless of where you start detangling your hair. We also have to talk about products, right? Using the right product obviously does make a difference. That slip and just having a lot of product in the hair is always beneficial. I know that dry detangling does work really well for me, particularly when I'm using my fingers. And if you go really slow, right, that's another point. The speed at which you detangle matters. If you go really slow, whether you're dry detangling, wet detangling, the slower the better. So as you can see, it took me about 15-20 minutes to do one section, For me, I've got like what, 15 parts in this head of hair. So you do the math, 15 by 20 minutes. That's how much time it will sort of take you to complete the full head of hair. However, you can do it slowly, you know, 1 section per night, 2 sections per night. That way you're not in a rush and you don't feel any pressure to complete the detangling in one sitting. You can put your hair in a bun like this one where nobody will know that, you know, you're in a process of detangling your hair, and you can still function in life. If you do 1 section every night, for example, in your hair, and you take your time about it, you can retain your length that way. Another option is maybe to just use wet detangling, right? You can use that gel that I showed you in this video, and you don't need to be in the shower feeling wet. You can detangle outside the shower and keep it in your hair. However, you have an easier detangling experience, and quicker as well, and, you know, less breakage, etc. Or you can finger detangle and not worry too much about the knots and tangles for the most part. However, when you do go to detangle at the end of the month or few months, then you need a lot of time, girl. A lot of time. And keep your hair in a style that allows you to still function even if your detangling is not complete. So it requires an enormous amount of time to carefully, you know, gently look after hair while using these combs. And it's doable, but I don't think this can actually be done in one sitting effectively, especially if it's done regularly. Like if you are frequently doing this with a brush on the weekly, I can see why we would be stagnant at the same length. And I found this to be the case in my routine for sure. So I hope this video gives you some ideas, and comment below what you think and what you do or use to, you know, detangle your hair, etc. Or methods, techniques around this topic. Obviously, finger detangling still comes on top when it comes to crazy amounts of length retention. And I guess you can just leave your hair alone, as we've always done, and just make sure that when you do go to detangle thoroughly, it's literally a ritual, and you do not make the mistake of doing it in a rush or causing excessive breakage unnecessarily. All right, I'll see you in the next one.